We now approximate the area under the graph of f of x equals 1 over x squared, defined in the interval 1 comma 5, using four rectangles and using the left endpoints. So first, let's determine the width of each rectangle. The width of each rectangle is given by the formula b minus a divided by n, and b is the endpoint, which is 5, and a is the starting point, which is 1, divided by n equals 4 rectangles, so we divide by 4, and this gives 5 minus 1 is 4, divided by 4 equals 1. So we have determined the width of each of this rectangle is 1, and this means we have to first write down each of the sub intervals. So the interval starts from 1, so the first interval will be 1 from 1 to 2, and then the second sub interval will be 2 to 3. We add 2 with the width of each of the rectangle, then it is 2 to 3, and then the next interval is 3 to 4, and then the next sub interval is 4 to 5. So basically each of these sub intervals represent the rectangle. So for this rectangle, we have to use the left endpoints. So here the height of the rectangle is represented by f of 1, and width of each of this rectangle is 1 unit. So we multiply f of 1 times 1, and for this rectangle, which is represented in this sub interval, the height of this rectangle is given by f of 2, that is f of the left endpoints, which is 2, times the width, which is 1. And for this rectangle, so likewise we write for the next two rectangles, this will be f of 3 times 1, and this will be f of 4 times 1. Now let's evaluate all of these areas of this rectangle. So f of 1 is replace x by 1 in f of x. So we have f of x equals 1 over x squared. So replacing x by 1, we get 1 over 1 squared times the width. This gives the area of the rectangle. This is 1 by 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. So the area of the first rectangle is 1. And now the area of the second rectangle is given by f of 2 times 1. So f of 2 is 1 by 2 square times 1. And this equals 1 by 2 square is 4 times 1. This equals 1 by 4. Now similarly we find the area of the next two rectangles. So here it will be 1 by 3 square times 1, and this equals 1 by 3 square is 9, times 1 is 1 by 9. And for the last rectangle, it is 1 by 4 square times 1. This equals 1 by 4 square is 1 by 16. So the area of these rectangles is 1, 1 by 4, 1 by 9, and 1 by 16. So to determine the area under the graph of this function f of x, we add all the areas of this rectangles. So therefore we say that approximate area under graph of f of x equals 1 by x squared. And so this equals, we add up all the areas, that is 1 plus 1 by 4 plus 1 by 9 plus 1 by 16, and adding them together and approximating, we get this one is approximately 1.4236. And so this is the area under the graph of the function f of x equals 1 by x squared, defined in the interval using four rectangles and using the left endpoints. Let's do question 4. Here we have f of x equals x squared, defined from x equal to 0 to x equal to 2, using n equal to 2 rectangles and using midpoints. So let's determine the approximate area under the graph of f of x equal x squared. So first we determine the width of each of these rectangles. We write width equals b minus a divided by n. So here b is the end point, which is 2, and a is the starting point. This is 0, divided by n is number of rectangles, which is 2. And so this gives 2 divided by 2 equals 1. We have determined width of each of this rectangle. So let's write down the sub intervals. Since x starts from 0, we start off with 0 and add the width. So it gives 0 to 1 is the first sub interval, and then from 1 to 2 is the next sub interval. So this interval basically represents the rectangle, but notice that we should use the midpoints of each of this sub-intervals. So here the midpoint is the average of these two endpoints, 0 and 1, which is zero point 0.5. And then here the midpoint of this sub-interval is midpoint of or the average of these two endpoints, that is 1 plus 2 divided by 2, and this equals 3 by 2 equals 1.5. So this one is the midpoint. And so here we consider the midpoint as the height of the rectangle. So the height of this rectangle is f of zero point 0.5 times the width of the rectangle is 1. And so this equals f of zero point 0.5 is replace x in f of x by zero point 0.5. Therefore, this becomes 0.5 squared times 1, and this equals 0.5 square, which equals 0.25. This is the area of the first rectangle. Now let's determine the area of the second rectangle, which has the midpoint 1.5. So we find f of 1.5 gives the height of the rectangle times the width, which is 1. And so therefore this equals 1.5 squared times 1, which equals 1.5 squared, and this equals 2.25. This is the area of the second rectangle. So 0.25 is the area of the first rectangle, and 2.25 is the area of the second rectangle. Therefore, the approximate area under the graph of f of x equals x squared. We add up these two areas. So this is 0.25 plus 2.25, and this equals 2.5. So this is the approximate area under the graph of f of x equals x squared, defined in the interval 0 to 2, using two rectangles and using midpoints.